So construction is in my DNA. Loved what I did. I love project management. But, there were a lot of times it was lonely. I mean, let's face it, it was the 70s. I had worked in some pretty toxic environments. It's just relentless. I never thought I'd be an entrepreneur, but raising my children was my number one priority. Started the business for flexibility in 1990, which was unheard of then. My philosophy was we're going to hire good people, get great work for them to do, and treat them well.
I'm writing notes as you're telling me all these things.
I've been in this business a very long time, and I still love it. I'm passionate about it.
I want to work for you. Hello, everyone. Welcome to The Build Up. We're here at the 2023 National CMAA Conference at the National Harbor. We have an exciting episode for you here today, an exciting guest. I wonder if we can just begin by introduce yourself, who you are, your firm, just a little background about you.
Yeah. So Ann Edwards-Cotter. I hyphenated my name some 47 years ago, and it's now sounds like a lot, but anyway, I usually shorten it to Ann Cotter. I founded Cotter Consulting, a PMCM firm, back in 1990. After about 10 years career as a project manager for a construction management firm and a couple of real estate development firms' construction divisions. Really started it because I had 4 children, and my youngest was almost 2, and it was really important to me to find the balance. I loved what I did. I loved project management, but raising my children was my number one priority. And so that started Cotter Consulting. Never thought I'd be an entrepreneur, although I do come from a family of entrepreneurs. And it was really more of a lifestyle. And I was going to be one person and thought that's all I would do. And the more I got into it, I loved business development. I loved the sales. I loved the delivering. Once I had enough projects and cash flow, I hired my first employee. And we've just built it up from there, finding opportunities, delivering. We are a woman-owned business, certified, but from the very beginning, it was always just about it's a tool to get your foot in the door, build capacity, and grow from there. And we've done really well with that. We are based in Chicago, so in a big urban environment like that, sometimes it's hard to get away from the WBE because it provides so many opportunities. But I think we're doing a great job. We love working with Procon, and
we love it too.
Pursuing federal opportunities, and
we provide complementary services for sure.
Yeah,
'cause we have a lot of expertise in federal work, and you guys bring a lot more to the table in other areas of expertise. So.
Well, and I always say, as a WBE, we start off being on teams, right? So from the very beginning, we had to collaborate, and I think one of the reasons for our success is we collaborate very well, and we always, partners will always say, you bring the best people to the team, and that's all we want to be. So, and now as I preach, whether you're a WB, MBE, or a big company, you team all the time.
Right.
You have to bring the right people and resources
Absolutely.
to what the client needs. So, yeah, I know I meandered there, but
no,
sorry
that's
about
perfect.
that.
No, awesome. That's why we want to be here, and just to get to know you, your background.
Yeah.
Now, I sometimes go to on my alma mater, Virginia Tech. I'm on the board there, and I oftentimes ask a lot of the students, how did you get into construction? And if you've ever watched my previous episodes, you'll get a whole, diverse response. But generally speaking, most people discover or stumble into construction. It's not something that they aspire to from a young kid going into it. And so I'll just start with asking you, how did you get into construction?
So construction is in my DNA. My great-grandfather, they were bricklayers in Wales, and then he sold brick when he came to the United States. My grandfather was a home builder and on the south side of Chicago for many years after World War II. My dad got a degree in civil engineering and was in various aspects of it, but really what got me into it is when he was a contractor. He was a concrete contractor, and I used to ride my bike over to his office and help his secretary. And then when I could drive, I drove materials out to the field, and it was a support. So anyway, I was hooked.
But, we're here at the National 2023 CMAA Conference in the Washington, D.C. area, just in the National Harbor here. And
cool area.
Speaking of like your experiences, how did you get involved in CMAA? I know you were pretty involved there.
I have probably been a member maybe since 2000s.
Mm-hmm.
And one of the things was because I always was just PMCM, I didn't fall into AIA. I didn't fall into AGC, right, or some of those. And when I first learned about CMAA, probably from ENR, because I've always subscribed to ENR, just to have a broad perspective, I'm like, okay, well, this is an organization that does exactly what we do. So I really became engaged, just really attending conferences here and there. There's a chapter in Chicago. It just has luncheons every once in a while. And then, I just more involved. I got in committees. Now I'm on the board of CMAA. And, I think it's just a great organization. It's really changed since when I first was involved with when Andrea Rutledge became the CEO of it, about 6-7 years ago, I think. I mean, she has talk about bringing CMAA. She is a rock star, and it's a great organization.
And what kind of impact? What kind of impact has it had on you personally, professionally, and for the organization that you're running?
It's given me such a broader perspective. We're almost all our work is in Chicago or Southern Wisconsin or Central Illinois. So it's just broadened my horizons across the country. I've met people and developed relationships over the years. I'll see a lot of people from Chicago who we do business with in that.
Yeah.
And I just have some great opportunities, meeting you. Sandy Hamby from MoCA is someone who I've really forged a relationship with through CMAA, and just great people, right?
Yeah,
I mean,
networking
there are just
at the
so
end of
many
the day,
great
right?
people.
Just networking, meeting people. So speaking of networking, we're here. We had a great event last night.
Yeah, it was a great party, guys.
Yeah, and just meeting all these people. Some of them, old friends. We're able to sort of hang out. There's once in a year opportunity where we can just catch up on things. What is sort of your philosophy and approach to networking?
Well, first of all, I just love people. So, and I love meeting new people. So learning their stories, what do they do, all of that. So I don't know, it just, I'm definitely an extrovert in that way, and then I get re-energized through other people. So I think at the root of it, that's what I always want to do. I always want to learn something, right? So when I meet someone and find out what they're doing and how they do it, I'm learning about something new.
Yeah.
This
business is all about relationships at the end of the day, right?
Absolutely.
And so I don't remember exactly when you and I met, maybe I'm sure it was at the CMAA event, but all the people, we have a new PMCM peer group that you've established, and you were gracious enough to invite me into your group. But all of that is kind of centered around relationship building. What is sort of your approach to establishing a meaningful long-term relationship?
Genuinely caring and connecting with the person, but then it's also the follow-up. Yeah. Right. You don't just the follow-up is what's key, right? Finding a reason to connect, whether it's an email saying, "Hey, how you doing?" or a call, or building relationships is so important, and kind of in the realm of business development, what I try to teach people who work for me, it's not going to some event and meeting someone. It's what you do after that, right? And some of them think all of their business development should be just, I'm going to show up and someone's going to know I'm there. No,
you have to go out.
You meet them, then you have to reach out to them and say, hey, can I come in and talk to you, right? Can I get to know you more? Can I find out what's important to you? But a lot of people think, just show up and that's it. And it's not, but it's all of life, right? Your whole life is relationships.
Relationships, absolutely. And speaking of relationships, these relationships we form lead to strategic partnerships, right? And I know you have several. We have a strategic partnership.
Yeah.
What does that mean to you? And how has CMAA sort of facilitated, that type of opportunity for your organization?
Well, I mean, that's what's really great about CMAA, right? I mean, we never would have met otherwise,
Yeah.
right? And made that connection, and then looked for opportunities. And we've been trying to build a market, and my son Bill, who's leading those efforts, is really connected
I was jealous.
with
I
Mark.
didn't get invited. I didn't get to play golf. With Bill and Mark.
Oh, well, don't
there.
worry, we'll play golf. Yeah, just, I mean, that's what it's all about. And once again, if the whole approach to our work is, you rarely can be just one firm, because
Right.
not one firm has the resources that the client or the project needs. And if you talk about being of value to the client, if you can bring all the necessary resources, that's what's really important to them. So
what makes a good, first, I think we're talking about cultivating strategic partnerships and how important it is in the growth of our businesses, right? So what do you look for in terms of a good strategic partner?
Well, first of all, honesty, integrity, people we can connect with, relate to. That's why building the relationship before you even try that is so
Right.
important. I mean, you get to know. I mean, not everyone are good business people. There's some flaky people out there. So you kind of size that up and realize, don't want to go there.
What are some red flags?
People who don't get it, don't really know the business, just are almost more like it's a commodity,
They just
not a
want the
professional
money.
service.
They're just very into growth and they're not interested in establishing long-term relationships or playing the long game.
Right. And it is a long game.
Yes.
Yeah, it is a long game, and you're right. And just in it for the wrong reasons, or there's a lot of small startup firms, particularly I see in Chicago, which want to take advantage of the different set-aside programs kind of thing. And
what is your thought on that?
Well, it served me well.
Right.
But it's a hard road. I mean, if that's all you're doing, if that's what you're hitching your entire wagon to, you're never going to get very far. I think our success, and I don't think we're nearly big enough, but it's been hard to grow when you're not the lead on projects.
Right.
Because I think, and so frankly, I think it's been a bit of a hindrance. On the other hand, we never would be where we're at. We're at 100 people and have great clients, and we have great prime contracts and all of that. But so it really enabled us to do it. But sometimes people reach out to me for advice who are starting a firm, and I'm like, I don't know if I'd do it again if I had it to do over again. It's just a lot of hard work and dedication.
Yes.
But I've loved it. I always say my project now is building my business instead of managing projects.
Yeah, absolutely. I think there was a switch somewhere along the path, your journey, and you and I have spoken about it, where you're starting to understand the concept of working on the business versus in the business. And somewhere when that switch occurred, you're like, that's the aha moment.
Yeah. And that for entrepreneurs, that's usually the hardest thing, giving it up. It means trusting people.
Yes.
And I think that's where when people can't do it, it's because they can't trust.
I was at a conference, and one of the person said it perfectly as they were talking about people in general. We get in our own way, right, a lot of the times. And some of the things that we're comfortable and we're good at prevents us from growing, right? And sometimes you just need to look people that's dead on and say, look, I love you for who you are and what you're doing, but I need you to be the person of what you can be, And so some of us, and that applies to me, although I've never had anyone really coach me along there, but I have to force myself. I got to be in a new role every year. So as an entrepreneur, it's a difficult thing.
Yeah, we're entrepreneurs because we're driven. You do have to, I always say, as an entrepreneur, you have to discipline yourself to not go chasing shiny objects.
Yes.
And
you learn.
I pull my,
you learn from a lot of mistakes because early on in your career, that's what you're doing. You're hustling, you're aiming at anything that moves, any target, and then you're like, this is not worth it. I'm like chasing, I feel like I'm going in circles, and then you start honing your craft a little bit, right?
Yeah. One of the valuable things I did was create an advisory board. And I've had a number of different boards over maybe the last 8 years or so, but they're the ones who'll say, rein you in, right? So, and I think as an entrepreneur, if you have a partner, I didn't have a partner So I didn't have that, so yin and yang you could have,
Yes.
or
And we
bounce
absolutely
something
have.
off.
Yeah, my partner and I, we Mark Eilich.
Yeah.
We're definitely yin and yang.
Yeah, that's great. You are
100%.
so lucky.
Yeah.
Yeah, you are just so
So
lucky.
we complement each other.
Yeah.
It's been great. So I applaud your, journey. Just you're doing it alone. I mean, it's an amazing story.
Yeah, well, thanks. Sometimes though, it might not have been the best way to go, but whatever. We're doing well, and
Yeah, you guys are doing
so
awesome.
we have our next generation taking over, and I have two of my sons in the business, and who are doing a great job. So.
Well, we were talking about strategic partnerships, but now let's focus a little bit on the internal corporate culture. I know it's on the minds of many CEOs. What does corporate culture mean to you?
Well, for us, it's everything. At that talk this morning, when
Absolutely.
they said, who was your most
Ta-da.
favorite boss, you know what I had to say? And I knew the person next to me. I didn't have a favorite boss. In fact, one of the drivers for me, once I knew I was going to start hiring people, was I had worked in some pretty toxic environments. I mean, a construction company. I mean, let's face it was the 70s and 80s. I worked for one really good company, LaSalle Partners, which was a predecessor of JLL. And they were really good to people. So I did experience that, although I had a tough boss when I was there. But what I really learned is how important the culture is. So from the very beginning, my philosophy was we're going to hire good people, get great work for them to do, and treat them well. And so, and then, of course, I also started the business for flexibility in 1990, which was unheard of then, so I could raise my children. And of course, then technology followed on soon thereafter that made it easier. But it's interesting because now when we interview young people and they're, well, what's your culture and are you balanced life? Anyone who works for me will go, well, Ann started the business when she had 4 kids for balance. So
There you go.
And it has held true today, and that is something we're proud of. We're different. So we've been different from the beginning. Obviously, being a woman in construction industry and that, but we forged that, and we do find we have a great culture and a lot of great people reinforcing it.
So how do you maintain that culture?
You focus
As the
on
company gets larger, it's a lot more difficult. And when it's smaller, at least it was for us, you knew everyone.
Yeah.
You were the center, and you knew their uncles, their family, the kids. As it gets larger, you don't get to do that. But then you bring leaders, and you're hoping that they carry on sort of the legacy, the culture that you've established. How do you do that?
I'll tell you what, you never stop doing it. I think around 1995, I did my first strategic planning internally. I had someone who had told me about it. I read a lot about it. And I think every time we plan as, a management team, whether it's every year or every 2 years, and we look at the issues and what we have to focus on in our company, it's communication, it's the culture, and I will tell you, we always are focusing on that. From the beginning when it was get-togethers, because the other thing about PMCM is people are spread out.
Yes.
Right? And they're just not all in your office. So you don't
Be
have that
intentional.
ability to build it. So, we newsletters, we have monthly town halls, we have an annual meeting where we bring everyone together, we have social events. We actually, in COVID, started this Cotter Connections, which really came out of talking about DE&I in our business. The bottom line was we just want to get to know each other. Once you get to know each other, learn about each other, it breaks down barriers.
Barriers, the walls, because at the end of the day, we're human beings, we're relational beings.
Absolutely.
It's all about the relationships,
Yeah,
right?
it
goes
is.
back
It
to the
is.
very basic.
So it's having good HR.
Yes.
When we were approaching 50 people, we said we need an HR person, and since then we've always had an HR person. So just that support that keeps it going, like those Cotter Connection meetings, they have, and they're all, on Teams now. But yeah, we encourage our group leaders to get their groups together on a regular basis, whether monthly or quarterly, because we know and we do engagement surveys every year. And they're always usually very high, except never ceases to amaze me. There's always a comment that is, I want to get to know what's going on in other groups in the company. I want to, it's really important to me. And so it just reminds me, no matter how hard you think what great job you think you're doing a great job. You think you're doing all these things. It's just relentless, right? You have to always be doing it. And like our
Always
town
be
hall will
yeah.
tailor to doing project. Now every month we do a project. We have someone highlight their project so that everyone can see what a project that's going on. We give most months we give the Cotter Culture Award. We signal out someone who's really living our values. And tell them why, and just give them a big shout out, and besides all the other basic business things that are going on, new business and
great thought. I love it. It never stops. It's a full comprehensive approach. Everyone has to join in on it, and you break it down to relationships, getting to know people. Mm-hmm. So, but speaking of culture, I'd be remiss if we don't sort of bring up this new culture that is shifting. We have the pandemic. We just got out of the pandemic, and there is this new culture that is kind of rising with remote work and the whole new generation of folks that are coming into the marketplace. Can you speak a little bit to that, and what are you guys doing to sort of adapt a little bit?
Yeah, well, I think from the beginning there was an ingrained culture in construction and engineering. Of commitment of very long hours, right, and it was drive the billability. It's drive. I mean, people work for contractors work 80-hour weeks, right? They just drive them, and once again, I go back to when I started, and even when the firm I was at before I left and started my own, I always said I could get the work done when it needs to be done, but I wanted flexibility for when I wasn't real busy and I could get my work done to be, sign up to be a room mom at school, right? Or be home for trick-or-treating or that kind of thing. And so I think it's that culture that had to change. And I guess I've seen it up close and personal because I had to do it. And
you were ahead of your time. You were ahead of your
kind of always bucking it. So I actually look at kids now, and I don't think they're unreasonable. Now, will it drive the 20% returns that some engineering firms can say they can get in this business? No, right? We settle for a lower return, but it's not that low. It's still a good It's still a good return compared to a lot of businesses. So I guess I'm on the new generation side. Now, I'm sure there's something. Well, first of all, we're really lucky because engineers, architects, I find even ones coming out of school, they're dedicated. They worked hard in college.
I want to work for your firm, man. I don't know what am I doing.
Well, we're not hiring philosophy
company.
Majors, right? Yes. Who may have their head in the clouds, I guess is what I'm trying to say. But we just have a lot of great young kids.
Great people. Yeah. Everyone I've met in your organization have been wonderful.
Now, is it different? I mean, do we have, we have a lot of people on H-1B visas, so
we
immigrants.
Talked about that, yes.
Yeah, but great. The immigrant culture, the immigrant wanting to work. But do we have a young guy who says, well, I'm going home to India for 3 weeks, and we let him go, right? I mean, because ordinarily in an organization, be like, no, you are not. But we respect that, right? And we support it. Yeah,
I'm
does it
writing
hurt
notes
us?
as you're telling me all these things. That's wonderful.
But, you just, once again, I think, if we're just driving towards returns, we wouldn't have that kind of culture.
It's about people at the end of the day.
Yeah.
But how are you guys handling this remote work? I know that you have 2 offices in Chicago, you'd mentioned.
Yeah.
What are your plans?
Well, the interesting thing is because most of our people are out on project sites, we've always been flexible. I mean, we
were ahead of the curve in every category.
And we were always just kind of flexible when people were, had young kids and stuff. And it's the kind of thing that, you're home at 4, but you're put the kids to bed and then you're working, for a few hours. I mean, we kind of
you've been flexible from day one.
Yeah. It's hard to balance for client needs.
Yes.
Right. I mean, you have to be open to that.
Yeah, you got to do what the client is asking at the end of the day as well.
Right.
So.
But no, so it wasn't like this switch that went, up and down
changed.
for us.
Everything is kind of
and we had the technology to support remote work.
That's wonderful.
Yeah. So some days the 3 accounting people are in, and some days they're all working from home. But it all gets done. Our bills get out. We collect. our payroll gets paid. I get the monthly reports. So as long as it works, we don't really have anyone who abuses it. We don't have perfect employees, but I don't. It doesn't bubble up to me if there's any issue with it.
Well, we're coming down to the end of our conversation. I wonder if you have any lasting remarks or thoughts regarding corporate culture, networking, strategic partnership, any CMAA, anything that's come to your mind?
The only thing I will say is I've been in this business a very long time, and I still love it. I'm passionate about it. I think how lucky we are to be in an industry because of collaboration, things like CMAA bringing people together, that you could just have an awesome career. And I love telling that to younger people.
Yes.
Because in this is a huge industry, right? Everyone's saying it's, $1 trillion plus, and, we're almost as big as healthcare. Yeah, and growing. Come here to build a career because they're satisfying.
Absolutely.
And especially if you love people. It's a blessing, and have such awesome people we work with. And yeah, and there's not the competition, right? I mean, that's another great thing about it. And that's what CMAA is. I mean, we work together. Right? It's not this, you're my competitor, I can't talk to you.
Oh, yeah. I long ago tear down the fences. If it's like being a good neighbor, you can't put up big fences if you're going to succeed in this industry.
Well, I do think that's what's great about CMAA, too. It gives, their focus on building the body of knowledge and certifications and all of that. So we have a level playing field in terms of what it takes to deliver projects. So I think that really helps to reinforce it, though, too, when you think about it. Everyone, of course, deliver great projects because everyone's coming from the same well thought out. I mean, the contribution of the people in this organization to that, to the continuous learning, to the body of knowledge, to the certifications is incredible. I'm just in awe of how much dedication they have for many years.
Right. Well, before I let you go, I do have a few rapid questions.
Okay.
What do you think is some of the coolest things that are happening in the industry?
Oh, I really want to see how far technology can take things. We're dying for people, and let's look to see where we can use technology to be more efficient.
What do you think are some of the biggest challenges that our industry is facing?
I think we need people who are critical thinkers and more big picture thinkers. I mean, we're going to be able to use technology, but if you aren't critical thinking and have great communication skills and can think strategically, and get your nose out of the details, I think teaching people that is going to be really important.
What is your prediction of the biggest change you'll see in 5 years?
I think that all field work will be using drones and that technology. I mean, in Illinois, they still use the books, right? That they have to write down the field books, and that's going to transform things.
Best advice someone has ever given you?
I guess, be happy, be positive. Yeah.
An advice that you would give to a young professional?
Get perspective. All right, because it's real easy to lose perspective when you're young about what's important and what's not. And that's usually where you go down, maybe, not the right way. Of course, everyone's got to learn, but by mistakes. But I just think when I see their problems, I think people lose perspective.
The best compliment you've ever received?
Wow, I've heard about Cotter, and I hear you're a great company. And then that's reputation, and that's everything you worked for. And yeah.
Well, I really appreciate you coming on to our podcast, The Build Up, and looking forward to hanging out more tonight. So.
Yeah, that's fun.
Thank
you. Thank you. Thanks.